You're listening to Building the Broncos with Nick Kendell and Carl Dumler, Broncos Country's leading draft and scouting analysts. Get on over to milehighhuddle.com to sound off on all things Broncos.
Back-to-back shows today. We are going to wait for a second while John pulls up the Facebook group there. So we see it coming down the tracks, and excited to talk. Some news today, right? The OTA stuff we're going to get to. I think Chad named that as the main topic of the show, but I'm most excited to get into your big board because I have not seen yours yet. So I think we're ready to go. It's a Tuesday night. Building the Broncos. Welcome back. We just saw each other Saturday. I did a show this morning, plugging it right now. Broncos for breakfast with Scott. So that'll be a lot of fun. Check it out. We'll be again live on Thursday. But now it's time for Building the Broncos and Mark Anthony coming in right away. What's good, BTB? Here for my favorite pod that I wish could happen every dang day. Well, Mark, I love your comment almost as much as that cute golden retriever pic you got there. So thank you so much.
Yeah, no, that's very kind of you. We love doing this show, and if we could do it every day, we probably would, just because we love talking Bronco football and, well, just football in general. Yeah. And no, it's very exciting. We got a big show for you. Got a lot of different topics going on. We are going to bring out possibly our big boards today and hopefully realize how different we really are. I think this year might be more different than usual.
We have not we have guys that we like, but we have not compared boards at all. So I'm curious to see how you have these guys slotted.
Yeah, me too. But so it's going to be big that way. Then, of course, got to talk some OTAs and what the heck's going on there, and making the decision to not do them in person this year. And just like I said, lots of information going on. So very, very excited. Thank you, everyone, for joining us here today. And by the way, great job this morning, Nick, on your show from Jay Roper.
Thank you very much.
So
it was fun. Waking up at 6 a.m. is I'm getting back into the hiking schedule, I guess. So we'll see how long it goes, but it was fun to get different opinions. I know sometimes, Carl, we share a brain. Maybe we're a little bit too incestual with our group chats and just talking this whole process through. But that's fine. It was good to get some outside perspective. We got Rob Cleef in the house. Got some other guys. Obviously, Jamal Roll. Haven't been able to catch the live in a while. What's up, Broncos country? Well, Rob, what's up with you? Looks like you got the Dragon Ball Z tattoo or art there. Looks pretty darn sick. Spicy Mike is also in the house. Talking about how great Bawana's piece was today on Rashaan Slater. I'm sure we'll talk a little bit of Rashaan Slater at some point today. Gavin Hole is in the house. Dion Roman. Paul, how you doing, buddy? Paul, we love you. You're one of our favorites. We really do appreciate you. Jason O'Neill is also in the house. A great show this morning, Nick. Hey, thanks so much, Jason. Hope to see more of those going forward. Tuesday and Thursday morning, boys. We'll be in there for your morning commute. Broncos for breakfast. Jacob Cassidy's in the house. Ernie Mays, the one, the only. Ernie Mays. Love you a lot. Oh, and we got first super coming down the pipe from Credam, $9.99. Thank you so much there over on YouTube. Go ahead, Carl.
I was going to say, and we'll get to this question just in a little bit. Before we do that, though, we really do want to get to our sponsor for today. I'm going to give them a huge shout out because, without some of their work, we couldn't be able to do this. So just want to let everyone know that here in 2021, you got a great opportunity for a new year, new me mindset. And the best way to do that is through Manscaped. Manscaped is the best in men's below-the-waist grooming, offering precision-engineered tools for your family jewels and helping 2 million men around the world keep their male grooming on point. If you let yourself go in 2020 while in quarantine, Manscaped is here for you to reboot and stay clean and shaved in 2021.
Yeah, guys, spring has sprung, but that doesn't mean everything has to spring or sprung below the belt line. And you want to make sure you're taking care of that using Manscaped's, I would say they're probably most famous product, the Lawnmower 3.0, which is waterproof and it has a skin-safe trimmer as well, which helps reduce nicks to your two best friends. The third generation trimmer even has a light on it to illuminate those hard-to-see spots. And Lord knows, sometimes you're just hoping and praying that you don't, cause some damage down there. Well, that's not the case with the Lawnmower 3.0. You can protect yourself while also making sure that nothing gets too out of whack down there. That's really good. And still, my stuff is a kind of locked up right now. We're still in the process of unpacking, but I made sure this one wasn't packed away. I have my little handy dandy Manscaped to-go kit right here. I mean, it's just got the essentials in there, but I've already had to use it a couple times, trim the nails, taking care of some eyebrows. Carl, I am unfortunately one of those men who sometimes the eyebrows start to encroach on each other. So I want to make sure those are looking good, and obviously they got the good products right here. So guys, make sure you're checking out all their products at Manscaped.
Definitely. And also the great thing that's going on right now is that you can get 20% off and free shipping with the code HUDDLE at manscaped.com. Your family jewels will thank you.
Yeah, guys, once again, if you use the code HUDDLE, you get 20% off and free shipping if you go to manscaped.com. But that's only if you use the code HUDDLE. Once again, 20% off and free shipping. And also, guys, want to make sure that you guys are following us on Twitter at Carl Dumler, MHH, and myself at Nick Kendell, MHH. You can find us on Twitter. We're pretty active on there. Sometimes maybe more than we should be, but, social media, man, it's got me hook, line, and sinker. Also, make sure you're following John on Twitter. Again, promoting his piece again. He put out a great piece today on Rashaan Slater, who'd make a lot of sense for the Denver Broncos. I follow him on Twitter at JohnKMHH. Also follow this show's Twitter account at BTB Football Pod, and follow us at Mile High Huddle. There you go. And we got to get to it here. Let's pull up the Super right now. Let's get things going. Okay, there we go.
Here. This is from Crudam. Really appreciate the super chat here, and right on cue with our topic here today. Evening, fellas. Excited for another episode. Very disappointed that players are skipping OTAs. I was advocating so hard for it, thinking they would be grateful for them instead of strictly virtual.
I mean, this is something that we kind of knew was coming down the tracks, right? Like, it's kind of like people understanding now that maybe I don't have to go down to work 5 days a week down at the office. Like, maybe one of the days, some of those meetings can be virtual, right? We're not wasting our times. And so this is something that has been, it feels like an inevitability for a bit. I mean, you can be a little bit disappointed for the Broncos specifically. I mean, this is a team that's a really young offense. Obviously, if Drew Lock is going to elevate his game, he needs all the reps and practice with his teammates that he can get. But I mean, these guys are going there, and they're leveraging right now that the product last year was not terrible. Granted, penalty calls were down across the league, and maybe that's something the league wants to do in general going forward. Maybe I enjoyed the product last year. So yes, it's kind of a bummer, but this is the vets using their influence to kind of push against this. And it's not going to just be the Broncos, Seahawks. And I think the Buccaneers literally just came down the tracks as well, which I think is kind of funny because a lot of people were saying, this Tom Brady wouldn't do this. Here we are. The Buccaneers are going to do this as well. So I think this is just a next phase in player empowerment. And I get that it's a change of the guard and coaches wouldn't like, coaches don't like it, but it's a players league, folks. So the players got the power. They're going to continue to leverage it. And obviously, hopefully the league will change a little bit and you can have like these volunteer workouts where like Drew Lock's getting the guys together, whatnot, or whoever the quarterback is. But things are changing. I think things are going to change. It's kind of a bummer for some folks, but I just think this was an inevitability and the Broncos are on the forefront of it.
Yeah, we got Tyler coming in here. Got to get right to it. Skipping these practices is selfish, childish, and pathetic. Sorry, guys. I'm torn on this because, one, especially for the vets, OTAs doesn't mean a whole lot. I mean, probably the most you're getting out of them is just getting to know some of the new teammates, getting some of that team camaraderie. I'm not saying that word right, but camaraderie. There we go. But those are the kind of things that you're probably getting out of this more so than actually like learning the offense, going through those kind of motions. I would hope that whoever the quarterback is and the wide receivers and tight ends and running backs, that they find different times throughout the summer to get together and work on some of those things. You're going to get more out of that than I think you are going to these OTAs. They kind of amp up. Usually these first ones that we have, it's really limited on what they can even do at these. So yes, it is a little disappointing. Like I said, it's a young team. This could be a very big benefit for them. Just in that, like I said, just getting to know each other, getting to spend time. That could be big for them. But beyond that, there's just not a whole lot of benefit to these. So I think teams are figuring out why have them force these players to come back. The players too, when we can let them have a little more freedom with some of this and then amp up when we need to.
Yeah, I mean, it's a bummer, but I really think, and the thing is, I feel like, and this is just my opinion, I do think it's maybe a little bit disingenuous with, blaming what's going on in the world for the reason. I think this is just jumping at it because of the circumstances of the league right now, right? Like, who was it? Jason Treader, who was saying like this is coming down the tracks as well for no OTAs, who's the head of the NFLPA. And these team leaders are, they don't want to do these anymore. They don't see the benefit in them. Obviously, there is some benefit, but you're hoping that they can supplement it. And, if this is the real eventual reality of how offseason programs are going to go, who are going to be the innovators, right? Because there's things are when things change, there is room for other teams and the smart teams to get a competitive edge. So what can the Broncos do if this is going to become the reality, to position themselves at a point of strength where they can get an advantage versus these other teams. Because I know it's the Broncos the first to break it, but I really would be shocked if half the league or more doesn't do that right now. We got Lazy Kozad coming in here. Some of the teams have a lot of players with off-season incentive monies, probably won't hold out. And I think that's going to be true for the Broncos as well. I think the guys like Von Miller, Drew Lock, Graham Glasgow, perhaps, there'll be some guys who will be in because their contracts are specifically linked to these volunteer OTAs. So there will be some there, but I still think this was bound to happen. There's been whispers of this for a bit. So here we are.
Right. I mean, there's a lot of talk of not the draft from now on being online. That teams would rather work from their own facilities instead of have to go somewhere, set up their whole camp, that they felt so much better just being at Dove Valley and being able to operate in that way. So it wouldn't surprise me if a lot of things in the off seasons really start going in that direction for sure.
Yeah, adapt or die, right? I mean, that's a football phrase, but it's true. Not just it goes beyond the football field as well. We got Chase Wallner coming in here with the hilarious Dexter meme of Peyton. Not gonna lie, I was feeling really good about this team since Peyton was hired. Today was a bit of a gut punch, though. Chase, I get it. I think that if you're putting the make or break of the season being the Broncos getting together for volunteer OTA practices, I think you're putting a little bit too much weight on that. Now, they're still going to put in the work. They're still going to be preseason. And we are still in the midst of I'm not supposed to say the word, but the global keyword right now, right? So the sick little bug is exactly. So things are going to change. How the innovators are smart about it and can be on the forefront is that's what's going to be make or break. But they're still going to have to come together at some point preseason and then the regular season. And the product was still, from an NFL perspective, good last year. Right. And everybody's got probably too close of a scope on the Broncos. Like, the Broncos were injured. The Broncos were bad. Injuries across the league were not crazy high compared to other years. Right. Like, got to look at the larger sample size here. So, I would be curious to see who in the locker room voted for or against. I think we do know some, given the tweets we saw today. Don't want to go too far down that. But, that's we'll see what happens.
Yeah. And, I'd also add in then for some of these players, Paris Robinson kind of coming in here saying, oh, my bad, saying y'all going to blame no OTAs again on Locke when he plays horrible again. I mean, if players are going to vote for this, they better be prepared to then produce on the field, like I said. Yeah. And they can't sit there at the end of the year and say, well, this offseason was so crazy, those kind of things. It's like, well, you voted to have it this way. So, last offseason, I can understand it a little bit more because there was no real option to do some of these things. Now that it is an option, yeah.
Yeah, and I don't want to go too far down the hot take side of this, but it does kind of bother me that they are taking somewhat advantage of this situation because, I mean, it's the social media world. These players are young, wealthy, a lot of them, and on the social media scape, and you're saying, oh, we can't go into OTAs, but you see them posting pictures on vacation or in the crowded areas with other people, and it's like, are we really that concerned about that, or is that just like, oh, here are the times now, this is the situation, let's use that as a catalyst for a changing of how things go. That I mean, I guess for me, that's just a little bit of really okay, but it is what it is. I think this is going to be a lot of teams that are going to do this, so it's just the reality of it.
Right. And Robert Caslow asking a great question here. Is it just volunteered OTAs or also mandatory OTAs that they are voting themselves out of here?
I think it's the volunteered, but don't quote me on that specifically. I think it's volunteered, though. That's they came out of the tracks and I was busy working and got home about 5 minutes before this, but that's my understanding.
So there's about, 4 or 5 phases through the offseason? Mm-hmm. So you have volunteer OTAs, mandatory OTAs, mini camp, training camp, preseason. Yeah. I'd say those are all the different ones there. Mm-hmm. And so I think this is just first phase that they've voted on. Yeah.
Yep. And thank you very much, Gary. You can join us. We'll be live again Thursday morning at 8:00 Mountain Time. We'll see what happens. And also the thing that bothers me as well about this is that, there are effective vaccines available right now. Both mRNA ones shown to be pretty effective. So I don't know. We'll see what the world looks like a couple months from now, but we'll see. And thank you very much for the kind comment. We're really appreciating that, guys. So do we want to touch on Alexander Johnson? I don't want to go too far down the track. Maybe there's a couple comments here that John can pull up, but Alexander Johnson had some comments about it. I mean, there's a lot of conspiracy theories out there. I'm not going to go too far down that, but I did hear that Broncos PR reached out to him after his Twitter comments today. So I think they're well aware. And also some of the Broncos connected, Broncos team media sent out tweets that were directly against what Alexander Johnson said after that. So they're well aware. I don't think they really liked what he had to say. At the very least, it was insensitive. It's the world we are in, right?
Right. And this makes me think of how they're thinking about putting, instead of a player's name on their back, a Twitter account for college players or their Instagram or anything like those. Yeah. Or is that you? Oh, okay.
UCF. Yeah.
Okay. I just think about that of, do you really want 18 to 22-year-olds and what they have to say about life being put out there? Mm-hmm. I was not thinking great when I was 18 to 22. There's probably some things.
I still.
Yeah. There's still plenty of times. Yeah. So that whole thing, sometimes their social media can be just as much of an issue as it can be a help for them. Some of them use it great to really expand their brand. Others use it terribly. That just really destroys a lot of confidence in them. I mean, we've had players fired in different leagues. I'm not sure about in the NFL, but I know NBA, baseball, there's been some players that were fired because of what their wives even said on social media. So it's kind of there's good and there's bad with it for sure.
Yeah. And I do want to bring this back. I want to pivot off I feel like we had to at least acknowledge the Alexander Johnson stuff. But what do you think about what Vic Fangio thinks about this? Right? Like, I know he's kind of the old hardcore ball coach, but he's a defensive innovator, and he's somebody who has not always been the oldest, thinker in the room. So what are your thoughts here? I mean, obviously he's probably a little bit bummed, and thank God for him. He's not like a first year head coach trying to install a new system or something, but do you have any, obviously we're just guessing, let me call it Vic on speed dial, but what do you think that his thoughts are on this?
Oh, at this point, I don't think he cares a whole lot because, like I said, I don't know how much you're really getting out of OTAs and actually getting players prepared and things like that. Yeah. I think in this, I'm trying to remember what all you can do in each phase. So this one, I know there's no kind of hitting, no kind of contact. I don't think you can even do like offense versus defense. I think it's position groups are divided up. I'm not even sure that the head coach is actually doing a whole lot. I think it's positional coaches doing most of the work that's in this time. So I don't think he's too worried about this. If it carries over to like mandatory OTAs and mini camps and stuff like that, he might start caring a lot more then because, like I said, trying to get new players integrated into the system. Most of these players, especially on his side of the ball, the defense, are players that are returning. Yeah. You got a couple new cornerbacks. Is that about it?
They brought in that defensive lineman from Minnesota.
I guess, yeah. I guess that's it. But beyond that, I mean, most of the guys already are up on the system. Yeah. And so going through a few little drills here and there, probably not going to matter for them. It matters a lot more for the offensive side than the defense for sure. Yeah,
absolutely. And also, Salvador, how you doing? No, I'm just kidding. Thank you very much. I have the hat right here, but I put on the camera and I was like, the hair looks good. The hair looks good, but let's just roll with the hair. So also Jay coming in here with the hair gangs in. My hair kind of got some curl going on. Yeah. But thank you guys very much. Also, speaking of thank you, Paul, we love you so much. Two of my favorite people, love Tuesday Night Pods. Great work. Happy for Dumler family. Go Broncos. Well, thank you so much, Paul. You're one of our favorites. I mean, we always appreciate interacting with you on Twitter as well. I mean, my wife still brings up Paul found me and my wife's wedding registry and sent us a couple things on our wedding registry. And it's like, oh my, who? One of your listeners and Twitter friends? That's awesome. I mean, God. So obviously it's just I'm not doing the middle part, Jay. I'm definitely a millennial. But no, Paul, we appreciate you. Thank you so much. Yep. Always just been super, super generous and really just Twitter can be pretty toxic. If I get a notification that Paul commented on something, I know it's going to be good.
Right. And appreciate the shout out from my family. That means a lot to me. And Paul was messaging me the other day saying, hey, you need to get Scott back on the show. It's been a few years since we've had him on the show. Scott's the guy that brought Nick and I together, actually. So someday we're going to have to bring back the OG.
Yeah, absolutely. And we also had a couple comments here from this Paris Robinson coming in. This podcast is my favorite. I'm always hyped hyped up, waiting for my boys to go live. Let's go, Nick and Carl. Well, Paris, we really do appreciate that. I know some people prefer Huddle Up, some people prefer Mile High Insiders, but we appreciate you guys rolling with any of us. We, just taking the time to be here with us. And I think now's the time, Carl. Let's start the big board. Chat, do you guys want top 20, top 25? What are we thinking? I know Rowan right here is saying big boards. We're definitely going to get to it. Oh, Jay's saying his middle part is glorious. You're probably younger than me, Jay, so you can actually pull it off. Carl, what do you think? Do you just have your top 20 or do you have your top 25?
I could expand it to 25, but so let's keep it at 20. I don't see the Broncos jumping back further than 20 at this point.
Okay. Well, I do. I just want to throw out some of these names. We won't go very far, but I would like to give some of my names just for the spicy take. And I'm even going to give you guys, I'm going to run 30 to 21 real quick. My 30th player, Micah Parsons. He would be top 8 on my board if it wasn't for the character concerns. Concerns me too much. I still have him in my top 30, but he's not completely off my board. But, it scares me a little bit. 29, Zaven Collins. 28, Trevon Moore, my only safety. Well, technically my only safety. 27, I have Joe Tryon, edge from Washington. 25, I have Elijah Vera, or 26, I have Elijah Vera Tucker, interior offensive lineman for me for USC. 25, I have Jeremiah Wusu-Koromoa, safety linebacker. I'm not sure. I don't love the scheme fit. I'm not sure exactly where he fits. Good player. Maybe I'll raise him up later, but not yet. Mac Jones, 24. Baron Browning, 23. Christian Barmore, 22. And Jamin Davis, 21. And yep, you guys heard that right. That means I have no linebackers in my top 20. Sorry, boys.
Ooh. Oh, man. That is spicy there.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, I guess, before we get to our big board, Steven coming in here with the super chat. Got to get that in here real quick. Steven, always been a big fan of the show, and we're a big fan of you. Drew Lock is my quarterback. Go Broncos. I love getting to see the support. Yeah. Stay. If you believe in the guy, go for it. I'm pounding the table for Justin Fields. That's my guy. I pounded the table for Paxton Lynch too. That one failed pretty miserably. But yeah, if you got your guy, you stick with it. I commend you for that. Obviously, I'm not quite as big of a fan. But hey, I still have some hope for Drew Lock. I really do. If the Broncos decide to pass on these quarterbacks because the price to trade up gets too high, I can understand it. Mm-hmm. See what this kid has for another year. See if it really was just kind of a fluke with this past offseason and everything going on. And, especially young offense, all those kind of things. And, Manning's been training with Locke, working on some film study from what I understand, and getting a little bit more involved with him. And that can never be a bad thing when you're working with Peyton Manning.
No, it ranges from either it doesn't mean very much or it's great. It's not a bad thing. Anybody who spins it that way, whatever. It doesn't mean a lot. I mean, Peyton Manning also endorsed Adam Gase. Okay, like here we are. That's just a fact. So it's not a bad thing, but what does it mean? We'll see. So Carl, do you have? Let's just start at 20. Let's go by segments of 2, I guess. So you're 20th and 19th player.
All right, I didn't know where to put this guy because he's talented, but I wouldn't draft him per se.
Oh, Christy's with Lock too. That's important. Christy, thank you for joining us today. We appreciate you. And ride or die, right? We'll see what happens. Yeah. I'm hoping that if the Broncos do, here's the thing too. I hope we can all just make a pact or a blood oath, right? A brotherhood oath from Hangover, whatever it is. If the Broncos don't end up going to quarterback in this class, cheer for whoever the quarterback is. I'm pulling for them to do the best. If they go with a different guy, let's cheer for them too. We all want the same thing. We want the Broncos to get out of this pit of misery they found themselves in the last 5 years. So we'll see. And we got crud. I'm going here before we actually get to the big boards. Same Q I asked Chad and Zach. If you trade back in the first ideal landing spot, who are you hoping falls to you in the first? And what do you do with the added draft capital? Trade back into the first or stay put with the extra picks? Carl, I'll let you go first.
Okay. Best landing spot, I don't think you want to get yourself out of the top 15 just because that's where the premier players really start to drop off big time. I think at that point you're going like 15 to 40. There's really not a huge difference between talent where you can see kind of this upper tier of other players. But now if you want actual real capital for being either able to trade up into the first or have more for the next year, then you're having to look at probably around pick 20 is where you're looking at that point. Who am I hoping falls to you in the first? There's a lot of players that I really like. Ojulari if we trade back into that like 20 range, would be a guy that I would really love. Jalen Phillips. Just maybe some teams get scared off by his medicals and somehow the Broncos end up landing him. Greg Newsom is another guy at that cornerback position. J.C. Horn, wouldn't mind him at all either. Even Patrick Surtain, I'm not a huge fan of the fit, but at the same time, he's still a talented player. I don't think he would fall that far. But if we're talking like in that 20 range, Kwity Paye, I like him probably more than you like him.
Oh, I will find out.
Yeah, maybe you are higher. I've been probably the guy that's been pounding the table the most for him. He's kind of slipped down my board a little bit more the more I watched him. I still love the talent, but those are some names. And what I'd rather do instead of trading back into the first, I'd rather get 2022 capital because at that point you've decided you're committed to Drew Lock this year, and if he fails, well then at least you have that extra capital. I mean, this is what the Bills did. 2017, they decided, hey, we don't like these quarterbacks. We're going to trade back. We're going to have extra capital. They used all that extra capital to then go up and get Josh Allen in 2018. So that's what I'd rather see the Broncos do at that point.
If we're trading back, I need a 2021 first or 2022 first. Excuse me. Yep. Because the quarterback position, it's not just trading up in the 2022 draft for a quarterback that you like. It's also, a chance for maybe a Matt Ryan or maybe a Aaron Rodgers or a Russell Wilson. Maybe it's Kirk Cousins. You don't love that, but like if you want to have a seat at the table, it's like a high stakes poker game. You have to be able to buy in. And if you don't have the capital, you can't do it. So we got Muhammad coming in here with the $2 super. We appreciate you a lot doing the rocking the gear, Muhammad. Always super, super, supportive of us, all the shows. We really do appreciate you. Also on Twitter, make sure, he's Muhammad's very interactive, and we love him for that.
Yeah, for sure. And we got Michael Carmel. Yeah, I'm not saying that right. Carmelini. I like that name. That's cool.
Carmelini, maybe.
We got Fields with exclamation marks. Although I do like Locke, I'd just like to hedge our bet at the quarterback position. Trade up, not back.
Oh, man, this is where I'm at. This is where I'm at. Like, everybody knows this. We've been saying it since November. I think there are 4 special quarterbacks in this class. And if you can get one of them, it's more so about those 4 quarterback prospects than it is Locke. I think Locke can be a good quarterback. However, where he's at right now, you don't know. You probably know more, and not in the good way, than you do with these quarterbacks in the draft. Right? And that's just where I lean.
Well, and here's the other thing I'd point out. Look at what teams are getting in return for young quarterbacks that have just even a little bit of upside. I mean, Sam Darnold, you could argue he had a worse season than Drew Lock this last year. You could argue the same with Carson Wentz. And both those guys got huge return. So it's not the worst thing in the world to have 2 quarterbacks and be able to use one to go get future draft capital. Especially if you're trading up for one. Well, now, hey, either you can trade that guy and get a lot of what you just gave in return, if not more, or you could trade Drew Lock and kind of recover a lot of those things, and it just looks great for your team. So to me, it's kind of it's a win-win. You're throwing more eggs into the most important basket and hoping that one of those 2 guys is that next young talent for the next 15, 20 years for your organization. That's great.
I'm 100% with you. And Robert coming in here, would you guys take Mac if he fell to 9? Well, you just heard my big board that Mac didn't make my top 20. So
mine neither. What?
Yeah, I think Mac, I've gone back and watched him because I'm trying to get it. I think it's a little bit of media narrative pushing him up, but he does have a high, I think he can be an okay starter in the league. Like how far can he take you? Especially is he a guy that like, what's his ceiling, and like, is that worth the second quarterback contract, which is what I'm always picturing for the quarterback, right? Like running backs, you're just thinking that first contract, but quarterbacks, you need to be thinking the second and maybe third contract. And for him, I don't see it. But here we go. We got Gase coming in here. Speaking of Gase earlier, thoughts on the Kuiper mock? No way we pass on Fields to take Parsons. I would be beside myself if that happened. You never know. Obviously Parsons has all of the off-field questions, plays a devalued position, but you watch him on the field. I mean, guys don't move like that at that size. Right. And that could be a difference maker in this defense. It's just, I've been burned before, so I don't want to go too far down that one.
Well, and the hard part there is the best linebacker in football will still not make the impact that even an average quarterback can make on a team.
Yep.
And so that's where you have to think of how you're valuing those picks. especially having somebody there at pick 9 because, I mean, Justin Fields was available. He's an average – if he turns into an average quarterback and you have him on that rookie contract for 5 years, that's huge. You can really build a great team around him. Joe Flacco was a great example of that. He was a below-average quarterback, but they built a great team around him, and it made a big difference when they got to the playoffs. Now, when he got paid, everything fell apart for them. But before that, they were a really good team.
Yeah, I mean, quarterback to linebacker, it'd be like, would you rather have like one of the nicest pairs of shoes on the market, or would you rather have, an average solid house? Like, I'm probably going to take the house. It's much more valuable. Even though the shoes are nice, they're just a pair of shoes, right? Maybe that'll upset some sneakerheads in here. But we got to get to the big boards here. So, Carl, your 20th and 19th player.
Okay. I have Devonta Smith at 20.
Oh, God, are you kidding me? Me too. I have Devonta Smith at 20.
Oh my gosh.
I really do.
I promise we really did not talk about these. Like, I've had a crazy week. And so I kind of forgot about some of this until last minute. And I've had this group for a while in my head, just not written down. 19, I know you don't have this one because you've already said him. Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah. So I had somebody convince me on this the other day.
Okay, I'm all ears because I'm starting to feel a little bit better about it too, because it's much more me projecting what this defense is and my understanding of it. But if like Vic Fangio came to me and was like, you know what, look at the AFC West, look where these teams are going.
Yep.
If I can get this guy, I know it's a luxury pick, but like where else do we go on this defense?
Right.
Like where else do we go? And so I'd be like, Fangio, innovator of defense, you want that guy?
Yeah.
Amen. I'm in. It's hard for me to project that.
Right. It is one of those. This is a athletic freak guy that can sideline to sideline make plays left and right. He makes plays in the backfield, which we saw in the Super Bowl Tampa Bay, that their linebackers were just flying sideline to sideline, making plays. He can do some work where he's covering linebackers one-on-one or running backs coming down the field one-on-one. So there is a skill set there that really matches up well, especially within the division. That's the big thing for me. And then also you add in all the other players around him are great run stuffers. I mean, the corners do really well. The safeties do well. The other linebackers do well. You got Purcell, who is one of the better nose tackle run defenders in football. You got Von Miller, Bradley Chubb. So you can make up for some of his size issues because of the other guys around him. So that's why I've been a little bit more convinced to move him up my board more so than earlier in the year.
Yeah, I was talking with Mile High Report's Joe Rolls. I was actually guested on his podcast, and he made the point of the Broncos were heavily linked to Joe Schobert and Corey Littleton, who are absolutely terrible in run defense and taking on blockers. So that was like, you know what? That does make sense as far as Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah. So again, maybe it's a little bit of a luxury pick, but this defense, they've really invested in it. And if that's somebody that Vic Fangio says, like, I can take this defense to the next level, I'm a defensive innovator, I'm going to make this guy fit, I would believe him because, I mean, his scheme is catching on across the league. People want Vic Fangio's match quarters, and if he can make JOK work, then that's great. I already said my number 20th guy is Devonta Smith. I don't think he's going to be there at 20, but I could not have a big board without him. I know that he's small in terms of height and weight, but he beats press like it doesn't even make sense. He gets separation like it doesn't even make sense. If he was there at 20th at some point, you just got to be like, you know what, he's too talented. I don't care. We might be losing 3 wide receivers next year. In Cortland after next year, and Cortland Sutton, Tim Patrick, and Deshaun Hamilton, just too talented to pass up. So I have Devonta Smith at 20. I don't expect the Broncos to take a wide receiver in the first round. 19, I have Christian Darasa. I like Christian Darasa. He has good flashes on tape. He's got actually one of the guys that actually has the length and the size that have held up through the measurements of this pre-draft process. I do question some of the reps on tape. He's very hot and cold. And for an offensive lineman, if there's any position where like you would take a guy who is a C every time rather than 9 A snaps and 1 F, it's the offensive line, because that one bad rep is going to kill you. It's a totally different type of position than other positions in terms of how you need to be consistent. The other thing is, I'm not saying there are character concerns, but I've been told by multiple people, I've asked multiple people, and I've had this verified, that he's already gone through 3 agents in the pre-draft process, which is, what's going on there? I haven't gotten a straight answer on that other than that's happened. So that concerns me. I'm not saying it's not like the Micah Parsons character concerns level, but it's worth noting. And it's like, if I was working in a front office or something, I would hopefully have that information. But it's enough for me to be like, pause. What's happening?
Yeah. Okay. You want to go to 18?
Let's see if there's any comments here real quick about our guys. So that way we can make it as interactive as possible. Could JOK cover tight ends?
Yeah. Oh yeah. He's got the length. He's got the athleticism for sure.
Yes.
And he showed well there at Notre Dame when he was asked to cover one-on-one. I think that he could really thrive in that kind of role. You give him a year or so to really develop as a coverage guy. And I think he could become one of the better coverage linebackers in football.
Yeah, I mean, you really hope that he could be maybe a Deion Jones type. That's the type. I still see him more as like an all-Adam safety type, but the game is getting smaller and faster, right? And like if you can stop the run, that's great, but it's more important to stop the pass. So I need to take my own advice here, and I would give a little bit in terms of run defense if you're getting a lot of it in pass defense, and I think you get that with JOK. I still don't think it's the best scheme fit, but that's where we're at. So a good question there. And Kenneth saying JOK can cover any one running back, tight end, even some wide receivers. And that's again maybe the base defense becomes like a 4-2-5 where they're running an overhang kind of safety type. I mean that's kind of what we saw last year with Will Parks when the cornerback room was down to their last leg, literally. We will see there. So Carl, I think let's snake this. I'll give you my 18 and 17 now. How's that sound?
Yeah, it sounds great.
My number 18, I have Caleb Farley. I know that he had the back injuries. I just saw a comment on it from Jonathan. Thank you very much for the insight here, Jonathan. Microdiscectomy isn't major and already been said he will be ready for training camp. That is true. That's what I've heard as well. However, he's going to be 22 or 23 next year, so he's a little bit older for a cornerback already. He's had numerous injury concerns, and he's also still pretty raw to the position. But man, his tape, his scheme fit, is the best for any cornerback in this class. And the Broncos are in a position where if they traded back a couple times and got extra capital, I'm totally okay using that extra resources and sitting on Farley for a year because you don't really need a boundary cornerback this year, but he could be a top 5 cornerback next year or a couple years from now. And you were missing probably 2 cornerbacks next year. So he's still up there for me. I still really like Farley. He would have probably been, if it wasn't for the injuries, he'd have been probably my 7th overall prospect on my big board, but can't ignore the injuries. Right. They're there. And then my number 17, Jalen Waddle, another wide receiver. He'll probably be gone before that pick. He has a chance to be one of the best wide receivers in this class. You know how much I love speed. He's faster than Ruggs. He's more dynamic than Ruggs was coming out. Broncos aren't going to take wide receiver. I don't think. Maybe later. You could take maybe an X later, but I think I like Waddle a lot. So I haven't done as much work on the wide receivers. I'll be completely honest, but I could not include Smith, Waddle, and we'll see later. I have Chase yet to come as well. Just spoiler alert.
Yeah. They're too big of talents not to have them on the board for sure.
Yeah.
And so I have Jason Owa.
Mm-hmm.
The kid obviously tested off the charts. He's raw, but you think about what would be the best position or best place for him to go? Denver. Mm-hmm. I mean, you already got 2 guys established in Von Miller, Bradley Chubb, and he doesn't even have to be number 3 for this team with Malik Reed in town. And so he can sit a year and learn from these guys and then explode onto the scene because, again, he is just off the charts athletic. And when you're talking about trying to replace a guy like Von Miller, boom, that's what you put in there. And we've heard that the Broncos didn't go to Penn State to watch Micah Parsons. They went to go watch this guy, Jason Owa. So I do know that they are really high on him, and he doesn't have the numbers that you like coming out of college. But, I mean, still, you don't want to be a box score scout, I guess you could say. But then I have Greg Newsom. Again, another guy that has some injury concerns at the cornerback position, but is a great scheme fit, athletic as you'll get out, is aggressive. One of those guys that just I could see actually doing really well trying to cover Tyreek Hill and actually winning a lot of those battles. You're not going to win all of them against Tyreek Hill, but if you ask him a few times a game to really have to line up one-on-one, I think he could win some of those. So I got to have him in my board there too.
Yeah, and I see a lot of people, Broncos aren't going to go wide receiver. It would be malpractice not to include the big 3 wide receivers in this, and they're ranked lower than when they'd be taken off the board anyway. So It's kind of like ranking Trevor Lawrence. Newsflash, he's my number 1 player. He's not going to be there. you're still going to have him listed, right? Like, it's just like,
right.
You're going to have him listed. So, God, I spoiled my number one player. Oh, man, what am I going to do? We got a couple supers here, though, we should get to real quick. I saw it. There it is. Thank you so much, John. Would the Niners taking Mac Jones at 3 be more egregious than the Giants taking Daniel Jones at 6? Context is everything. The answer to this is yes, because in this class, there are better quarterbacks available. And that class we saw was just terrible. I think Daniel Jones might be a worse quarterback, although he does actually have athleticism that Mac Jones would dream about. But you're passing on 2 other quarterbacks that I think are tiers better than Mac Jones. That's my opinion. Carl, looks like you disagree. I can't tell.
I do, just because of the coaching staff, because of Kyle Shanahan and his quarterback-friendly system. He's going to make Mac Jones look better than Daniel Jones. That's my one difference there. Daniel Jones, I mean, Pat Shurmur, I'm not trying to dog on Pat Shurmur, but he's not Kyle Shanahan when it comes to really setting up an offense for a quarterback and really maximizing what they can bring to the table. And so I guess when you're looking at, like, especially what they gave up to go get him, then all of that factored in, yes, probably the Daniel Jones situation isn't as big as Mac Jones to the 49ers. Because, like I said, you gave up all of this. You expect this guy to be your franchise guy for the next 20 years. And I don't see Mac Jones being that kind of guy.
Yeah, and I wanted to address this real quick from John here real quick. This is a Broncos-specific big board, in my opinion. I'm not going to take wide receivers completely off. There'd be guys who are higher or not for other reasons, but this is, at some point, the guy's just too talented, right? And I think about draft picks. I don't think about them as far as 2021. I think about them as what they're going to do for their career. And at some point, Broncos are going to need a wide receiver. So if, like, Jamar Chase falls, let's say the Broncos trade to 16 and Jamar Chase is there, I don't care. I'll figure it out because he's too talented.
Right. And you think about Cortland Sutton's up for a contract next year.
Yes.
You got Tim Patrick, who's going to be up for a contract next year. So that's your 2 X's that you have on your roster right now. There's no guarantee. Let's say Cortland Sutton gets injured again this year. Knock on wood. But are you going to be signing him to a long-term contract? Probably not. Tim Patrick, he had his greatest season. He's at his highest value. Is he going to continue to build on that? He's got also injury concerns from his past as well. And so, again, if that kind of talent is there, it only allows you to maximize. Okay, well, Cortland Sutton wants $18-20 million a year. Well, good luck. See you. We'll take that 3rd-round comp pick. And, I mean, I'd hate to see Cortland Sutton go because I think he is a true talent. I think he's a true star. I'm just saying, like you said, if one of these guys falls to that 16, it's going to be hard to pass on him. It's also why I have a certain wide receiver that you've already listed a little bit higher than you, because I think he brings a little bit different skill set that you can make work with a lot of other guys there.
Well, let's hear your, what are we on now? We just did 18 and 17. Let's hear your 16 and 15.
Okay. Kwity Paye.
At 16?
Yep, at 16. Like I said, just athletic freak, needs some refinement. Here in Denver, he'd be able to get that. So I really like his fit there. Patrick Surtain at 15. Again, another talented guy. I'm not sure how he exactly fits, but if he's there at that 15, 16, 17 pick, I don't have as much problem taking him there. I have a problem taking him at 9, but you trade back at a little more capital. I trust, especially with this defense, that they can figure out how to make certain quarterbacks work. They can find a way to make his skill set fit within this defense. So that's why I'm still going to include him on this list.
I mean, I have no issue with that at all. Pretty surprising that I'm going to have Kwity Paye higher than you, but that's where we're at. My 16 overall player, I have Greg Newsom the second. I think he's an ideal scheme fit. If it wasn't for the injuries, he'd have a strong case for the number 1 wide receiver or number 1 cornerback on my big board. But I can't ignore the injuries. Also, his 2019 tape versus his 2020 tape looks like a different guy out there. So, I mean, obviously something can click, but it's not 2 years of good tape. It's 1 year of very good tape. And in a weird Big Ten season where he played on one of the best defenses, at least one of the best structured defenses in football. Maybe not the most talented, but like Pat Fitzgerald has those guys doing great things. Very annoying as an Iowa Hawkeye fan because Northwestern always seems to bite us in the butt. And then my number 15, I have Kwity Paye. So you had 16, I had him 15. He is my edge 4 So if that says anything, I still like him a lot. I wish he was a little bit lengthier, and I wish he played more of a just basic 7 or 9 technique rather than moving around too much. I think they moved him around too much where it was almost detrimental to what he can do, but he gets pressures. He's versatile. I don't think he's as good of a scheme fit as the other guys I have ahead of him, but I'm all about investing in, if you're going to invest in any positions, obviously, and you want to overinvest almost, it's pass rushers, cover guys, and pass catchers, and the offensive line, obviously, like linebacker, safety, tight end, running back, like I'm okay just having an assortment of guys there, but I need those expensive positions. I need an assortment. I need to have depth, and especially edge rusher. So I have Kwity Paye as my edge rusher 4, but he's at 15 overall. So let's check the super chat real quick, see if anybody's talking here real quick. I saw somebody say that edge rusher is definitely a need. Oh, there we go. Edge rusher is a need. There we go. From Michael Carmelini. Thank you very much. And so, edge rusher is very interesting. And Don Lovato saying, I know the Broncos want to go defense at number 9. Question is there a defensive player worth the number 9 overall pick? That's what everybody's talking about right now. Robert coming in.
Well, I would say there's only one defensive player, if the Broncos decide we're sticking at 9, that I'm sitting there saying I would be okay with them taking. Can you guess who that is?
I'm going to guess it's going to be Jalen Phillips.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. I have him at exactly number 9 on my big board. I know I'm jumping ahead here a little bit, but he's the only guy, just because of just the ceiling of what he could become is so off the charts that it's worth taking the risk with some of the injuries. But the rest of them, it's too much. That's the big problem here is this is a very offensive top heavy draft. And it's not really a problem because the Broncos could use a quarterback. They could use an offensive tackle, and even Kyle Pitts. He's obviously pretty high on my board as well. All those guys could fit within this team. So I'm not too disappointed if it is really offense early on.
Bone a kiss to Rich for that beautiful beard. Seth Harmon coming in with that pear giving us the thumbs up there. I was about to say peach. Nope. I just saw that bottom half and my mind went to peach, but that's a pear. No, thank you very much. Jay coming in here real quick. This is kind of off topic from the big board, but that's fine. He asked it earlier too, just got lost. I want to ask this again because I think it's interesting. Carl and Nick, do you think Locke's arm talent strength has regressed due to the injury, or is it his base? Example, Bill's game. It's a boring answer, but I think it's a little bit of both. I think his shoulder was somewhat impacting him this year, but you're going to lose a lot of velocity and even more so accuracy and timing if your base is erratic and not replicatable and you're trying to be, Aaron Rodgers on plays where it's not called for, right? Like if you can do that, that's a great, card you can play, but when it's in structure and you have room to step up or navigate the pocket, you're going to be much more accurate and on time if you do that. So I think it's a little bit of both. I still think Locke has a, top 15 arm. It's not this it's not Jay Cutler out there. It's not John Elway out there. It's not Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes, but it's definitely good in terms of pure velocity.
It's good enough. I would say, you think about the injuries, thumb injury, where he did say, and others have pointed out, he cannot grip the football like he used to. Whether that comes back better over time, we'll have to see on that. And then AC joint. I've had this injury. It's bad. That was even quite a few years ago for me. There's still times where I feel it catch and it's just not quite the power that I used to be able to throw a football. My arm just does not feel the same. And, but I had a really bad one. It was, I couldn't do anything for about a year because of how bad I sprained that. So
how does that help with the arm curl on, watching the games?
You get really good lefty.
Oh, okay. Lefty loosey. That's right.
Yeah. But so I do think that did affect him. I don't think there's any way it couldn't have, but you're right. It's a little bit of both, where his base was a lot worse from his rookie year to his second year. That's why I kind of started believing him after his rookie season, because I'm seeing better footwork than I saw in college when he came in those last 5 games. And I was going, all right, here we go. He's got a little bit of accuracy that I didn't see in college. And then all of it disappeared his second year. I thought he even did worse than what his senior year of college showed at times. Yeah. And so we'll have to see if he worked on that this offseason. if he is the starter for the Broncos for week 1. I don't know. But that's a great question, though.
Yeah, thank you very much. Back to the big board here. We're not halfway. We got to get it moving. My 14th overall player, my edge 3, Jason Owa, Penn State. If you guys listened to Scott and myself this morning, Scott about tripped over himself talking about Owa's athletic traits and athleticism and said that was the best edge rusher performance in a pro day or combine since Jadeveon Clowney, where people were tripping over themselves. Now, granted, Clowney's been good, not great, but I don't think that's because of Clowney's athleticism or traits that's happened. And Owa, new to the game, he was a prep basketball player, and he's just kind of still figuring it out. But like you said earlier, if you can play that guy as a kind of a rotational player year 1, it gives you a lot of flexibility with what happens with life after Von, which, guys, it's an inevitability, right? At some point, it's going to be life after Von Miller. Like,
right.
It's just like it sucks, but like it's coming. You have to prepare yourself for that. So I've been on him since before the season because I got glimpses of him last year, and I have some Iowa connections, and they're like, we're kind of worried about week 2 with Jason Owa, who that Iowa ended up playing that, or week 3, excuse me. I don't even remember. Either way, Jason Owa, they're like, that guy is absolutely insane. And he has everything you're looking for. He's super long armed, good bend, good ankle flexion. He has more power to his game. I think he can get stronger. I think he can put on more weight and more power in his frame. He just really needs to work on his moves and understanding how to set guys up. That's perfect for a rotational guy year 1. And then you set yourself up in a position where you can move that Von Miller contract over to Bradley Chubb, and you still have a cost-controlled premium edge rusher, which if you're going to contend in this division, and if you're going to work with Vic Fangio's defense, I know everybody's like the Super Bowl. Oh, look at the linebackers. Look at the linebackers. Biggest takeaway, getting pressure with 4, dropping 7. If you can do that, you can contend with the Chiefs. And that's what Fangio will do. So if you have to continually invest in edge rushers, pass rushers. And I think Owa is pretty darn special talent. So I have him at 14, 13 for me, my cornerback 2, Patrick Surtain, not the best scheme fit, but he's a double, right? You're going to hit a double taking Patrick Surtain. He's super safe. And at a year where we are missing information, there's so many questions, no combine. Patrick Surtain isn't going to bust. Now, is he going to be a homer? I don't know. But and also, Vic Fangio with Prince Umukamara, he wants to play more off coverage on the boundary. With Prince Umukamara, though, he used a fair amount of press with him on the boundary. So he can be flexible and adaptable. I don't think Surtain has the twitch of my cornerback 1, and he doesn't have the ball skills or the nose for the football of my cornerback 1. So that's why he's not my cornerback 1. But I think, good player. I have him at 13. I probably have a little bit of issue with him going at 9. But again, you need cornerbacks. You need them. And the more you can get.
I like it. All right. Well, we might have to speed up here just a little bit.
We can go 10, 15 over. It's Tuesday.
Okay.
John's giving us the okay. Okay.
Okay. Thank you. All right. 14 for me. My cornerback 1, J.C. Horn.
Okay.
Just like I said, I think they can make a way for him to fit.
Mm-hmm.
He can be a little too aggressive for what they're going to probably ask him to do in the NFL. But you got to love his size. He's got athleticism. He's got length. There's just a lot to really like about his game. Mm-hmm. And then 13 for me, Azeez Ojulari. This is my my pass rusher number 2 on my big board. I like his length. He doesn't look that long, but then all of a sudden you watch him play and he does a great job keeping people off his body. I'm very, very surprised at how well he does that. And I think he's underrated in run support because he is so small, but he does a great job winning the leverage battle. And then his ability to bend around the edge. He's probably the best in this class at his ability to bend and go make plays. He's a finisher. I think that's the big difference between him and Jason Owa is he actually knows how to finish the play. And so he's a little bit further in his development in that way. And I think he'd be a really nice complement to Bradley Chubb. That's the big thing is you got one guy that's a bender around the edge, another guy that's the power rusher off the other edge, meet in the middle, works great.
Yeah, I think he's probably a more run sound Yannick Ngakoue with longer arms and can do some of those coverage stuff that Vic Fangio wants for one of his edge rushers. So I like him a lot. I haven't listed him yet for a reason. He's coming. But I like him a lot. Also, he's not even 21 years old yet. I do wonder how much more, like you said, despite being small, he's not terrible against the run. I'm curious how much that translates to the next level and also how much more weight he could put on his frame. Even though he has the long arms, I think he's a little bit wiry. I just don't know if he has the torso and the lower half to put on more weight, good weight. But we'll see. So it will be really interesting there. That's a good call. I guess we'll just keep chugging along here. My 12 player is JC Horn, my cornerback 1. Big difference I went with there is because the ball skills and the twitch. I think he's got better of those in both than Surtain. And in order to play the off coverage, you need to have more twitch. You need to be able to close a gap. I think he does that better than Surtain. And I also think that Denver's defense last year, one of the worst in getting turnovers. Now, part of that is because the offense was pretty inept. And if you're not playing with a lead, a lot of times opposing offenses are going to play conservative and not put the ball in harm's way. But if I can get a guy who can take the ball away, that's something you have to be able to do. That's something this Denver's defense has to do. As good as they've been, solid as they've been the last few years, turnovers have been an issue. So I have a JC Horn at 12. My number 11 player, he's too good not to have here. It's Jamar Chase. Broncos need an X receiver, potentially down the line. He's probably going to go top 6 from what I'm hearing. I just don't see how he's going to get past Miami. Or he definitely isn't going to get past Detroit at 7. So the fact that he's ranked at 11 for me is kind of just process, because he's not going to be there at 11, and I'm not going to take him at 9, even if he was there at 9, probably with how my board is set up. But he's a really good player. Some people compare him to the best wide receiver since Julio Jones. I think that's maybe a little bit of a stretch, but he'd have been wide receiver 1 in last year's draft. So he's really talented. I like him a lot.
Yep. All right, let's go to our next group here. Elijah Vera Tucker for me at 12.
Yeah, okay. Guard,
I know you have him a lot hard. I don't have as much problem with being a little bit smaller and not as long as you do.
Yeah.
Because you remember the Georgia offensive tackle a couple years ago. Yes, I was really high on him. Mm-hmm. And I think he's still a great player if he's not hurt.
Yeah.
When he's healthy, he's been really good on the field. So I don't have as much problem with length. So I don't mind, again, especially a guy like him with all of his athleticism, putting him with Munchak, I think they can make him work really well. And then you add in the fact that he is versatile. So let's say Dalton Reisner doesn't work out. Mm-hmm. Well, you got a guy that can plug in there and be a great starter from the get-go. Yeah. Or Graham Glasgow, who we're going to have on the show the 21st. Is that right? Something like that. Anyway, he's coming up here pretty soon. Yeah. So John got him on for one of our shows here coming up. But let's say you want to get a little cheaper at the position after a year or so. Boom, here's your guy. Or plug him at right tackle. So the versatility moves him up my board. And then I got another offensive tackle here. I know, again, you were a little lower on him. Christian Darasa. My big thing is go ahead and use a premium pick on a guy that especially with the coaching staff, can turn into something great. Mm-hmm. And so getting something like his length, and then you pair that with learning the technical side of the game, the sky is the limit for this kid.
Yeah.
So that's why I have him ranked pretty high here.
If I didn't have the hot and cold from Darasa's tape, there's some games where he just doesn't look interested. I can't speak for it, but that's a concern for me. And then the stuff where he's gone through multiple agents. So I think I would have him definitely in my top 14. If not, I will push back a little bit about Elijah Vera Tucker. It's just because it's not only that I think the Broncos are investment wise, and also the fact that it's a devalued position. I'm not as in dire need of an interior offensive line, but I don't think he's an inside zone / power scheme guy. I think he's wide zone. So that just, it's double demerits for me. I think he's a good player. I think he could go as high as 14 to the Vikings and they would be ecstatic about that. But for the Broncos specifically, where the team lines up right now, positional value, scheme fit, it's just too much for me. I think he's a damn good offensive lineman, just not somebody who it's not the best marriage for me for my analysis.
Yep.
So yeah, do we have anything super here, or should we get right into our top 10? All right, Carl, let's hear your 10 and 9.
Okay. I have Rashaan Slater here at number 10. I went back and forth really where to put him. I like his game. Again, a little bit on the not as great length as you'd like, and maybe fits a little bit more of that zone, that wide zone as well. But it's hard to ignore the talent. I mean, the guy's just off the charts. And then number 9, Jalen Phillips, my only defensive player in the top 10. And just, man, that guy is so talented. Yeah. If he didn't have the concussions, he'd be the first probably non-quarterback taken Pick number 4. Yeah.
I mean, Atlanta needs pass rush like crazy, and his tape is that talent, like that level this season. And then you have the athletic numbers to match. But with the concussions, I can't see him going that high.
Right. But, no, I don't either. But again, that's why he's my only defensive player in the top 10, just because just off the charts talented. He's got length, he's got power, he's got speed. I saw his 10-yard split, and I think he was like 3rd in the edge class for speed. And you add in the fact that he's a power rusher with that speed, man, he could become a top 10 pass rusher in football real quick. That would not shock me one bit if he goes into the right situation.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't listed him yet for a reason as well. So he's going to be in my top 10. I'm about to be very upset, Carl, if this guy doesn't make it in your top 10. He's somebody that I absolutely love. So we got Aaron coming in here first before we get into it. Broncos going to be amazing in 2021 from Denver, Colorado, Broncos country. Well, thank you very much, Aaron, for stopping by and leaving the comment. And we agree. I think the Broncos, this is the most excited I've been about a Broncos team since 2016. And I was still riding the high from 2015 to 2016 season. We're like, oh, Trevor Siemian, maybe he can be great. The defense, well, then reality kicked us in the balls multiple times.
Right.
But brought to you by Manscaped. Ball kicks because the Broncos have been bad. But everything comes back to Manscaped, right? My number 10 player, and like I was saying, Carl, if you don't have this guy in your top 10, I'm going to be very upset. Tevin Jenkins, offensive tackle from Oklahoma State. He has measured in with the adequate length, very good mover, probably the strongest hands in this class. I think stronger hands than Pene Sewell, and an incredible scheme fit, an absolutely incredible scheme fit. I mean, you're looking for this Broncos team. Not only offense has been bad the last few years, they've lacked an identity. And like, who do they want to be? A team that throws it around 11 personnel, 12 personnel, shotgun under center? Don't know. But this offensive line, with how they've invested in it, and with Mike Munchak, you have a chance to really make the offensive line the defining factor of this offense with good weapons too. But I mean, really, and I think Tevin Jenkins is a tone setter. He's a butt kicker, and I have him at 10. I've heard that he could go as high as 8. I've heard that like the Panthers love him, and they might take him at 8 if Sewell isn't there. So I have Tevin Jenkins at 10. My number 9 player, Azeez Ojulari. I think he's a great scheme fit. Long, good pass rusher. Maybe not the upside of a typical top 10 edge rusher, but that's just the reality of this class. So I like him a lot. I'm not going to add too much more because you already said a good bit that I agree with.
Yep. Okay. Well, now I feel like horses, you know what?
Oh,
I forgot him.
Oh, you forgot him, Carl.
I'm so sorry. Oh my gosh. Yes, he would be in my top 20. I will say that. He would be in my top 12.
Okay. All right.
I'm not as high on him as you are, but I would have him in my top 12. I'm so sorry. I wrote these, like I said, I just kind of went off the top of my head. Yes, it really has. All right. So number 8 for me, Ja'Marr Chase. Man, he is a true X receiver for the NFL.
Yeah.
He's got leaping ability. He's got body control. He's not going to be the fastest guy in the NFL, but he's got plenty of speed to get separation. That wasn't exactly what he was known for in college, of getting the separation, but it's still there. You saw some plays where he was running away from people. So you already said it. He's got great hands as well. I mean, just a quarterback's best friend. You can trust this guy to go make a play for you. If you're in trouble, throw it to Ja'Marr Chase. Number 7, Jalen Waddle.
Oh, man. You have 2 wide receivers in your top 8?
I do. Oh. Well, 1, because I love the wide receiver position.
Okay.
And 2, these receivers. So, I loved last year's class. Loved me some Lamb. Very disappointed the Broncos didn't take him. I mean, I like Judy, but Lamb's still my guy. These 2 I'd have ranked higher than any of those guys in that class by far. They'd be in a whole new tier above those guys.
Mm-hmm.
And Jalen Waddle, I don't like to make comparisons to like all pro players in the NFL very often, but like he's a bigger Tyreek Hill.
Oh,
his
a little
movement,
better off the field.
Yes, better off the field. That's the other thing that you have with him. He's bigger and, like I said, no off-field issues. The only thing you have is the injury. But man, just anything you want to do on offense, you can do with this guy. He really took a big lift.
with him. Like once he was hurt, like they didn't miss a beat because great offensive scheme this year. But like Devonta Smith won the Heisman, but Jalen Waddle was the alpha of that room. That's who they were going with before Smith went down. So I mean, you know how much I love speed. I was almost like, man, I wish the Broncos would have lost to the Raiders in 2020 or 2019 because then they could have picked Tristan Wirfs at 10, and then they could have been in the market for one of these wide receivers. Because also it's not just because I'm an Iowa fan and Tristan Wirfs is incredible and should have been an All-Pro this year as a rookie, but that's beside the point. Man, 2 wide receivers. Sorry, I cut you off. 2 wide receivers in your top 8 for a Broncos big board is that's eye-opening to me. That's crazy. I mean, I love it, but
it's a little bit of safety for Cortland Sutton because we don't know exactly what he's going to be coming back. And if he does come back and play great, he's going to want a giant contract. And wide receivers, the contracts are just exploding. And so I'm just not sure how that's going to work paying him unless they do go get themselves a rookie quarterback this year. Then you can probably make that all work. But again, just adding a talent like Waddle. The great thing is, even if you pay Cortland Sutton, you can make Judy and Waddle and Hamler and Fant. I mean, you can go empty set and have teams going, oh, crap, what do we do? Because you can't cover any of these guys one-on-one.
I would dominate in Madden so bad. So bad.
just run fly routes all day. Everybody go deep.
4 verts. We're doing it.
Oh, man, that would be so much fun. But again, this is that guy that can scare you where you have him doing those end arounds. And then you do the fake end around, and you see the whole defense go with him. And so then all of a sudden, oh, here we go, counter the other way. It just really mixes up what you can do on offense. And so that's why I love him more than anybody else, because he is such a compliment to really any kind of wide receiver that you could put out there. He can open up everything for everybody else. So that's why I'm going to put him that high.
Wow. I thought I was going to get some flack for having any wide receivers in my Broncos big board, but to have 2 in the top 10, Carl, you are really leaning into, you don't worry about what this team needs right now. You're going for the best talent. So I love it. I wish I could practice what I preach as much as you just did just there, because I couldn't do it. I love these guys. They should be top 10 players. In a vacuum, they would be. I can't do it for the Broncos with how much they've invested in and how good this room already is. But God bless you for it. My number 8 player, my highest rated defensive player, Jalen Phillips. His tape is outlandish. I'm not going to go as far as Brett Coleman, who said that Jalen Phillips is similar to J.J. Watt. But, I mean, you talk about a power player. He's got the best, most refined pass rush arsenal in this class. He can play the edge against the run. He's very good at setting the edge. He can do some stunt game stuff. He's a good athlete. I mean, if it wasn't for the injuries, I think he would be going 4 overall. Like that's the type of talent we're talking about. We don't know about the injuries. I'm not a neurologist. I'm a scientist, not a neurologist. So it would depend on what my team doctor said. There's concussions. He was forced to retire from UCLA because of 4 concussions. What does that mean long term? You talked about it on Saturday, how your wife works in concussions, so you have a little bit of a different perspective. But I don't know. I have his name written down here at 8 with a plus next to it, which is for health. That's enough of a question mark where he could be. Honestly, I could put him higher on my board if I didn't have any health questions, or he could be completely off of it. I don't know. I can just go off the tape. So here we are. My number 7 player, I have Rashaan Slater at 7. I have offensive tackle and interior offensive line. The Broncos offensive line, they've invested in it pretty heavily over the last few years, but you don't know about Juwan James long-term. Dalton Reisner had a down season last year. Lloyd Cushenberry up and down. I think Rashaan Slater, he might be a little bit better in a wide zone, outside zone scheme, but I think he's going to be really good no matter where he goes. And let's say the Broncos have to, let's say Juwan James plays great this year and they have to decide that, I guess Dalton Reisner's our first guy off the bench. Okay. I want the best 5 to play. That's what the offensive line is about, right? And I think that competition would be awesome for the offensive line. So I think most likely you're having him compete with Juwan James, but I'm getting the best 5 out there. And I'm going to make sure that offensive line is top 10 this year. And I think you can do that with Rashaan Slater. So I have him at 7. I'm going to keep rolling here because we're getting a little long. Yeah. Unless there's any supers or comments on that. Nope, no comments. Do you have any thoughts about? You had Slater a little bit lower than me.
Yeah, I had him at 10. I still love the player. And like you said, that versatility probably should bump him up a little further in my board. Like I said, some of these playmakers, it was hard for me to have them any lower. I probably could have, because like I said, the Broncos are not going to take them unless they trade back and some reason the injury concerns or something else pops up. Maybe a photo comes out right before the draft that begins to drop them. crazier things have happened before. But no, I love Rashaan Slater. I think you can make him work wherever you wanted to put him. And so if the Broncos took him at pick 9, I'd be like, yeah, makes sense. Complete that offensive line. And like I said, you can plug him anywhere early on. It can be kind of like, what Miami did when they took, oh my gosh, why am I spacing his name there?
Hunt?
No, they're the one that they just traded to Houston.
Laremy Tunsil.
Yeah, Tunsil. They started him at guard.
Yep.
Because they had 2 great tackles, but they're like, we can't pass on this kind of talent. And then they moved him to tackle, and then they traded him for a buttload of picks. But for the Broncos, you can start him off at guard if you need to, or move him to tackle, whatever it takes. He can make it work.
Absolutely. So my number, I guess we'll keep rolling. So Phillips was my 8, Slater was my 7. Number 6, I have Pene Sewell. Again, same. He can be a tackle or a guard. I do think that he is not as transcendent as people build him to be. Leading into the season, he's a very good athlete. He's very young, but he's still very raw. Like, I just don't know how his pass sets are going to be, because that Oregon offense, they were like with Justin Herbert that season, which was Pene Sewell's last season. It was like driving a Ferrari in a school zone, right? The bubble screens, the weird little quick pass sets. Like, that's not a translatable offensive scheme. And we didn't really see Pene Sewell play much of a actual pass blocking sets. So that's my number 6 player. I think he'd be great though. Still, I take him, play him at right tackle, play him at guard. You're happy about it for a while. And I think he's a better scheme fit than Slater. So I have him higher, and he's younger, better athlete, or a more explosive athlete at a bigger size. My number 5 player, it's not a need for the Broncos, but he's probably the best player in the class in a vacuum without positional value. Kyle Pitts. Broncos have Albert Okwuegbunam, a 4th round pick who had like 12 catches last year. I'm going to let that guy keep me from taking the best player in the class? I don't think so. Get out of here. I don't think so. Right. And I saw that somebody on Twitter was talking about it, and Noah Fant was like, oh, I see you talking about taking Kyle Pitts. I'm an Iowa boy. I love Noah Fant. I was probably one of the first ones on Noah Fant. I'm taking Kyle Pitts. Like, I'll figure it out. And you're talking about needing X receivers down the line. Kyle Pitts can play X. So he's my number 5. And as you guys can probably guess how that sets up for us, I haven't said any. Oh, I said Mac Jones, I guess, earlier, but I haven't said any of the top 4 quarterbacks yet. 1, 2, 3, 4 are going to be quarterbacks. So, Carl, let's hear your 6 and 5, and let's get into
let's just say I switched what you just did.
Okay.
So Sewell at 5, Pitts at 6. Just because I feel like Sewell fits a little bit more of a true need on the team. You still have an X receiver, you still have a great tight end, you still have other receivers. So, I mean, you can make Pitts work. Don't get me wrong. I mean, that's why he's still up here. I'm nitpicking the difference here between these two. But I feel like Sewell could be an actual real need maybe this year and next year even. And so that's why I'm making him work. But
the stars, I think stars from Randy Jones. Thank you very much for the stars, Randy. We appreciate you. And John, next time I need just more hands. So that way I really know. Now, there we go. There
I need some jazz fingers going.
I'm going to have an epilepsy or jazz hands. There we go. Sewell, tell me a little bit about Sewell and his scheme fit. We got to get out of it. We got to talk quarterbacks here. Never mind. We'll talk Sewell before the draft for sure.
Okay. So quarterbacks. Number 4, Zack Wilson. Is that what you got too?
Nope.
No? Okay. I have Zack Wilson there. Some of his injuries have me a little terrified. That throwing shoulder being one of them. Yeah. Man, anything shoulder related, especially on your throwing shoulder, is going to be a major concern for me. I mean, that's your moneymaker. At some point, there's probably going to be something else that happens with that. So that's one reason that I have him at number 4. I still love the fit. I think he's probably one of the best scheme fits with Shermer. So maybe he should be bumped up my list a little bit here because of that. But beyond that, I do have a lot more questions about Zack Wilson's game than I do probably the other 3.
That's crazy to me, given the 1-year sample size versus a not great opponents in Trey Lance. There's a lot of projection you have to do at Trey Lance, and I'm about it. I mean, he's still my number 4 player, right? But like to say, I feel like from where I sit, I could not put Lance over Wilson given the information that I have and the tape. I have no issue you doing it. I couldn't do it because the boom or bust nature, given the tape that we have, is so high, right? So Lance is my 4, Wilson is my 3.
Okay. So my reason for that is because Trey Lance, no matter what, he has the translatable skill that if everything else breaks down, he can take off running and turn it into a huge play for the offense.
Yeah.
Zack Wilson can still run, but he's not Trey Lance run ability.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so that's why I move him up just a little bit, because he always has that fallback plan of what he can do. So then that leaves 1 and 2. And you already said who your number 1 is. But Trevor Lawrence and Justin Fields. I mean, so Trevor Lawrence, number 1, Justin Fields, number 2. I think sometimes we overthink this a little bit, where Trevor Lawrence, it almost gets like boring. Yeah.
So good luck, Jason, with that shoulder surgery recovering. Man, just that means you have to give him some tidbits how to drink beer with your other arm. So
right,
Jason, don't worry, Carl's looking out for you. I want to talk about this. We got to get out of here. I know that John said 7:20 hard cutoff, but man, we got to go. We'll probably talk about quarterbacks some more later. I see a bunch of people saying we're catching in here late. I do think that there's this weird thing where Trevor Lawrence, he is my number 1 quarterback, but like he's not this perfect quarterback ever, right? Like he has flaws, and there's a reality out there where he doesn't end up this great quarterback. And I think that quarterbacks 2, 3, and 4 are much closer to Trevor Lawrence and have a probability of being better than Trevor Lawrence than anybody wants to talk. I feel like maybe it's this fake pseudo stance where it's like, oh, if I can't trade up to Trevor Lawrence and I don't want any of them because they know Trevor Lawrence is unattainable, so that means I will just roll with what I already have. Like, I'm calling BS on that. I think you're just saying that because you know that you haven't put in the work on Trevor Lawrence because he's not going to be there. So he's this idealized, prospect. These other guys are incredible. I'd have no issue with any of them. And I think, like, dating back last year, 2, 3, and 4 would be in the argument with Joe Burrow. Really, like I really do. So yeah, it's a great class and great quarterback.
Yeah, I see Mark Anthony asking here, Lawrence versus Luck prospect comparison. Who y'all got? I'd take Luck.
Oh man, it's really close.
It would be. I mean, we're like I said, we're nitpicking here, but it's not so much that it's like you said. It's not so Lawrence is so far up here that he's off the screen, and then you got 2, 3, 4. It really is 1, 2, 3, 4. Like they're all just kind of right there together. Yeah. And like I said, I think
slightly better traits.
Yeah.
Lawrence has slightly better traits, but like he was playing his team on the ACC for Clemson was so much better than anybody else he was playing. And people complain about Justin Fields' offense not translating to the NFL. Have you watched what Trevor Lawrence is doing there with Clemson? Like, I'm sorry, like you're calling yourself out on that one because what he's executing is like high school, and they're doing great. Like because of the talent, and he can execute. He's so talented, but it's like what he's being asked to do from a schematic standpoint, not close to what Andrew Luck was being asked to do also. So I probably would lean Luck because of that. But it is close. They're both great players, but there's many good quarterbacks in this class. And that's why we've always been on this thing where it's like, if you can go get one, go get one.
Right.
It's not even Luck's fault.
Right. And that's just it is you can make these guys work in a lot of different offenses because they have a lot of different skill sets that they bring to the table. And I think which one's going to be the best probably depends a lot more on their situation than 100%. Their actual talent.
100%. Very good. Very good point. Well, guys, that's going to have to do it for us today, unless I have to pull up the rap horn in case there's any last second supers here. But we do appreciate the heck out of you guys. That has been Building the Broncos today. You can find us every single Tuesday at 7:00 Mountain. We will be here unless somebody's schedule has to pivot around. Obviously, we will be flexible when that happens. But plan for us Tuesday nights, and that's not just leading up to the draft. That's after the draft as well. We're here 7 days a week, not just this show, Mile High Insiders, Huddle Up Podcast, and obviously the Valley Deep Divers, and also now on Tuesday and Thursday mornings, Broncos for Breakfast. You can join myself and Scott Kennedy. We're going to talk football. It's a little shorter show. It's about 30, 45 minutes, but I had a lot of fun this morning, and it's good to hear some different perspectives here. And I'm glad, Carl, actually, we had a decently different big board, so that's really good because it's boring if we all have the same things to say and the same opinions, right? And the fact that we can agree to disagree on some things, it's football. Like, we're just having fun talking about it. It's not a personal insult if you have a different take. I welcome the different opinions on here because different opinions are the spice of life. Speaking of spice of life, you get Twitter. You guys can find us on Twitter. You can find myself at Nick Kendell MHH and John at John K MHH and Carl at Carl Dumler MHH. Also, John just had up our Facebook group. You guys can find us on Facebook with the group Mile High Huddle. Become a supporter. That would be very helpful for us. Also, guys, head on over to iTunes, leave us a 5-star rating and a comment. That helps a lot. Most important thing you can do, though, like, subscribe, and share if you're joining us on YouTube Or if you're joining us on Facebook, click those thumbs up, laugh, react, surprise reaction, heart emoji, all of those work. Those things help us get new listeners. They help get this content to more people. And man, that's the best thing you can do for us. We really do appreciate the supers. We know not everybody can do that, but it's not a lot. It's not a big ask to like, subscribe, and share, or like, heart, wow, react, laugh, react, angry emoji, whatever. That helps us a lot. Follow us on Twitter at Mile High Huddle and at BTB Football Pod. I know that we got to get out of here because there's other things coming up. We appreciate everyone in here today. See people, sorry I missed the show. Holden, it's coming in here. I've just finished taking the GRE test. I'll rewind and watch it from the top. Holden, hopefully that went well. Sending good vibes. I know it's already happened, but appreciate you a lot. And also Broncos for breakfast. I'm sure John can hit you with that after the show, or I can as well, or Chad. But it's out there. I will make sure to get that to you, Richie Rich. I'll make sure to tweet it. And people saying great content. So yeah, we'll be again Thursday morning at 7 a.m. So I know we got to get out of here. We have like 30 seconds left. So we're going to run. We love y'all. Stay safe. And as always, go Broncos.
You've been listening to Building the Broncos. Join Broncos Country's deep divers at milehighhuddle.com to keep the conversation going.